viewers of the internet, and welcome to this automation video where I'll be attempting to build a junior hot hatchback. My words came out eventually, but seriously I have some interesting ideas for this, so we're going to set it to 2017, come on, that way, and not 2016 because that's last year now. So we're going to actually use the engine from the sports car we built, the Speedy Bob, that we built on the previous episode. Now I'm thinking, yes, that as a hot hatchback. No, we want something lower slung, I think, but still relatively compact. As you'll see, the width of this at least isn't massive, so that's always going to be useful for helping weave between the cars. This is an older body, but it does seem to offer what we're looking for in terms of overall size and shape. I mean, I would go for something more Peugeot 106, but this definitely works in terms of a small, light, agile vehicle. I'm thinking we want to maybe make it slightly more angular. I don't know. Could bring that back. Or could bring it forwards. I think we should bring it back. I think it looks good that way. Could bring that forwards, but let's not. So there's our vehicle. It looks okay so far, for lack of a better term. Now, I'm thinking we'll go with a unitary corrosion resistant steel, perhaps. Now, we could go with AHS steel. It all depends on the cost, ultimately. I'll put AHS on for the time being, I think, or maybe not. No, engineering time is high on both of them. I thought I could save a bit of engineering time, create the prototypes quicker and everything, but it doesn't make that difference as I'd hoped it would. We could go with front longitudinal or rear longitudinal, but I think front transverse is probably the most realistic option in this kind of vehicle, so that's what we're going to use. Maybe we should have double wishbones on the front. I'm just thinking that. It is a sportier car, but then at the same time we should put the effort into rear suspension, I would say, because as much as the front could benefit from superior suspension technologies, I think the rear suspension has pretty good importance. Maybe we could go with double wishbone all round. I believe an older Honda Civic had that kind of suspension, so it would certainly make for an interesting change in how such a small car would handle. Should we do that? It's hard to say, really. I think we should go with refinement. They're more of the general refinement technologies. It's hard to say. I think I'll go with this. This has been used as a general technology for cars. Multilink is particularly advanced for this type of car, remember. It must take up some space though. Yeah, if we look at torsion beam, that is a lot smaller. But we want the car to ride well over bumps, so we're using that. Now I'm actually going with partial aluminium for the body material, because aluminium's weak, it bends if you sit on it or whatever, so we'll just go with aluminium panels and not an actual aluminium chassis on the vehicle. Now the design is next up, so I'm going to rejoin you when I've got a design together. Okay, so here we have the design. It's not exactly pretty, but if you stare at it long enough and convince yourself it's beautiful, you'll eventually think it is. Hey, we hospitalised 3 people doing this, so you probably shouldn't take our advice. But anyway, here we have the front end. There is a completely useless and fake grille there. Well, I guess it's not useless, it does look fairly good. But we have this lower grille to do all the cooling, and we can add vents or change that to a wheel grille if we absolutely need the cooling, so that's all good there. We also have some indicators just packed in there. Nowhere else I could think to put them. And we have some indicators there, and a groovy door handle, which makes it even more funky, I think, if we use that term to sell it. And the rear, we have some squashed Sylvia tail lights. Again, you have to convince yourself it's beautiful. But I did find somewhere to use these. I mean, I've had them on my hard drive for ages, and I just wanted to use them, so I've eventually put them on a car, which is always nice to me. And we have a weird exhaust number plate assortment. I can only think that's going to just melt your number plate, but still, if I try and put the number plates further down, there's like a beam behind the bumper or something, and it's hard to explain, but it just blocks the exhaust so it doesn't look right. I eventually put those words together. Anyway, we need to select a colour. I'm thinking we'll have Core 2 Duo kind of darker blue style of colour, maybe. Maybe if we lighten it up a little. That looks about right. It's not perfect, but it's close enough for me. And we need to select our engine, so hopefully I can find it. There it is, right at the top, that's convenient. This is the same engine I've used in the sports car, so if you've not seen that video, you can watch that, or at least parts of it, and become vaguely familiar with the engine. It's got a huge amount of turbo lag because it was so tiny. I mean, it was all I could fit. I'm pretty sure if we look back here, we'll see there's no problem fitting it in. And no, indeed, no major problems at least. Although more yellow than I would like to see. It does fit just fine. And it was actually a length issue when it was mounted transversely in the sports car, so I did have to put a tiny engine in, and the only way I was getting the power I wanted, which was 200 plus, was putting a turbocharger onto it. So that's what I did. Admittedly, it may be a bit more expensive than it needs to be, but hey, it revs to 8800, and it's a fairly refined sports engine, so I can't complain about it. I'll just let you hear it again in case you haven't seen my previous video. So, if I was feeling that correctly, it seemed the turbo came in around 4,000, as it should have, and the VVT kicked in around 7,000, but it was hard to hear it over all the turbo whine. So, that's a thing to say about it. Let's just see how well it fits in here. Yeah, quite well. There's some space to the side of it. Not a huge amount of space, but there's enough. The pipe's a bit crammed in there, but hey, you get it in. It does fit, no problems there. Now, what transmission do we want? I'm inclined to say a 5-speed, actually. We shouldn't need to go mad with the transmission, because why bother? It's just a cheaper kind of sporty car, so that works. Now, do we want a differential? I would say yes, especially since they're quite cheap. We could go with a geared, but we do want comfort as a focus, so I think we'll go with a vicious. Or how about electric? Electric's pretty good actually, but it's really expensive, more than we want to spend on a differential for this type of vehicle. I'd much rather spend the money on brakes, especially since it's probably not powerful enough to need it. And we're going to need to basically have a wide body, because there's no other way I could fit tyres I would like on here. Still, nothing particularly wrong with having a wide body other than it's extremely wide compared to what it could otherwise be. Mine, with how massive cars have got today, it shouldn't make much difference. So hopefully, yes, 215s, 245 on the rear, but we're not going longitudinal, so we don't want wider rear tyres. Still, look at this. I think the front track's actually wider, maybe, just a little. Yeah, 215s, what an achievement. It shouldn't be an achievement to fit 215s on a car, but it is. I think we could probably put sport tyres on here. My mind's debating inside, should I go with narrower tyres and a narrower track? Probably, but that would be the sensible option. Who needs a sensible option? Sport tyres are expensive. We'll go with medium, maybe? Yeah, medium. Should do the trick. I think I used them on the sports cars, so they should work. Go with alloy wheels, and we need to choose some wheels actually. They look large enough as they are, or maybe. Oh yes, They won't go any bigger. 16-inch. One flats. Well, not quite one flats, but crazy meshed wheels. Yeah, I think I'll make this just a little narrower though, because it's got to a point it's ridiculous now. There's a wide body and then there's a really wide body. I was verging into a really wide body. Now if I can get 195s, I'll be happy, yeah. It's not perfect, I must remember. But 195s, it works fairly well. Yeah, they're a bit more inwards than the front, but then it is a front wheel drive car, so the front's the important part that needs all the traction. So I can only hope this grips. I'm glad I don't have to go any narrower than 195, so. Now, to keep prices down, I question whether we should go with solid discs. I wonder what the pricing difference is. If we take one piston, that's 112, 144. So, the pricing can go up quite a bit. But then we are only running a 220 horsepower car, so I might get away with it. What's the difference with two piston, which I'll probably use? I don't know. Actually, I think for front vented discs, as I said, I would rather spend the money on brakes. And boy, are we doing that. 275s, much larger than this car would need, but then this isn't a case of necessity, it's a case of what we want it to be. I think this could be capable though, and in a weird way I feel this could be capable of more speed than the sports car. It sounds like complete madness, but if you think about it, it's not an impossibility. And in a way, I'm hoping the sports car's better, because can you just imagine the feeling of having your Halo kind of miniature sports car being beaten by, of all things, your sportified Super Mini? Yeah, it's not a very good way to go. Now, could we go with cooling flaps? Might as well. It's advanced enough as it is. Ooh, it has a lot of airflow, though. That surprises me. I'm going to have to do something about that. I think it might count the entire unit as a grill, as opposed to just the parts at the side, like I thought it was counting. That's my only guess, honestly. We'll go with a 4-seater car, I think. Difficult decision. Most difficult decision we've had in the whole video. Now, I think we'll go with a premium interior. Yeah, it's not that much more than the standard for weight. But we'll go with standard infotainment, perhaps, or maybe basic. Yeah, we'll actually go with basic infotainment because it's a lot lighter. Yeah, we can still go with decent materials without adding crazy amounts of, cost and stuff. I think we want power steering, anti-lock brakes, and maybe traction control, but if it's not necessary, I don't want to go adding assists left, right and centre. We'll need power steering and anti-lock brakes almost certainly, but beyond that, not much. We're going with basic safety. Yep, it's not a very safe car, but it will make it faster due to the reduction in weight. Now, we want some fairly solid suspension. Engineering time average on all this. We could probably go high, actually. Where is engineering time on that? Extremely high for active sport. But no air suspension, that's odd. I'm pretty sure the Range Rover still uses air suspension, so it's not like it's a really antiquated technology or something. We'll use a progressive suspension system with adaptive dampers, actually, and engineering time is very high on that. Semi-active sway bars. Set it up for comfort. All in all, this should be a good car, although quite expensive thanks to the number of high-end parts we've used. Yep, 12,200. It's not as ridiculous as I expected. It's not going to bring in huge amounts of profit, but still 6% and $13,000. That's not too bad. I would increase quality in certain areas, though. I feel like we could increase the price a little more because it's a decent vehicle, although the technology isn't here. If you look at the safety, and you look at the kind of entertainment system, it's not great in that respect, but you're paying for the speed, I think it's safe to say. Also, you're paying for our profit margins. We have to keep the wealthy fat at our company, because that means they've got status. If they thin out, then I don't know what we'll do. We have an image to uphold after all. Yeah, they may be stuck in the Tudor era in that respect. Anyway, I'm going to take it round the track and return when I've done it. Okay, so here we have the final vehicle. I did make some changes just before I took it round the track. Notably, it is called Boaty Hatchback because I decided it's got floaty suspension, so, you know, it has to be called Boaty Hatchback. Also, the variant is epic speed. Now, I'll go on to the time in a moment, but first of all, we've got to talk through some stuff here. You'll see the top speed is actually lower by about 5 miles per hour. There's a good reason for that, which we'll get onto. We have a manual single clutch gearbox, same as before. Spacing is 57 because that gives us our 5.9 second 0 to 60 time. With surprisingly little wheel spin, it was actually 30% when I begun with this ordeal. But I've had to change to sport compound tyres and an electric differential in order to help put the power down. That has helped, as well as the downforce. Again, I'll get onto that later. All this stuff is the same. I still no need to change that. We've not got an active wing, but we can apparently have one now. It's still not necessary though, so I won't bother. Could actually take cooling flaps off. Nah, let's not bother. I've already lapped it now. Same semi-clad under tray. Cooling, I'll show you what I've done here. Yeah, I've just put 2 vents on each side of the number plate because that's all I could think of doing, really. And they are looking a little strange, like, as in I could make them bigger because I make them bigger, I make them taller, and they just provide far too much airflow. As it is, I'm very happy with it. It seems to be just the right amount for the engine and the brakes. In my mind, at least. The engine could probably do with a little more cooling, but hey, it's not going to explode, it is staying cool. We've got some more quality on the interior, and safety, actually. I probably don't need more quality on the safety mind, because, I don't know. Oh yeah, let's do it to a better quality, because the little safety it has there needs to be executed well. Now, we've got the same suspension system, and that's about it I've got to talk about. Now, the price, it is expensive. $14,490. It is about $500 cheaper than the sports car, though, which shares the engine, and you get 2 more seats. So, I guess it depends which way you see it. You could see it as a front-wheel drive version of that sports car, at which point it's quite a bargain, actually. Or you could see it as a glorified super mini that's costing far, far above what it should cost. Now, the downforce, I do have to talk about this, but I keep missing it for some reason. Weight is 1061, also quite similar to a sports car, by about 20 kilos, maybe a little less lighter. So it's very, very close, actually. Surprisingly close. Despite being different materials and bodyworks and everything. Seriously, if we look down here though, we'll see downforce 6.8 kilograms on the front and 8.5 kilograms on the rear. It's not a huge amount of downforce, but it works. It holds the vehicle down and it reduces the top speed. Not what I was going for, but an unnecessary side effect of having downforce on your vehicle. So that's all I've got to talk of now. I could probably change the chassis actually, but since it's so squishy and wobbly with the suspension, is there really a point? That's what we have to ask. And all in all, I'm positively happy with what I've done. Seriously, one of these days I'll remember. The lap time it's set is a 2 minutes 23.66 time, just under, like 0.01 seconds slower than the sports car I built. So it's just about slow enough to make people still want the sports car somewhat, which I have to see as a good thing. I mean, if I had wider tyres, it might have done better. These are absolutely tiny if we just look at them. 195s, tiny by a sports car standards at least, but that's all I can fit without going for a crazy wide body, so that's what I was restricted with. It's already kind of a wide body, just not a hugely wide version. So that's all so good so far. We have beaten the country by almost 10 seconds, and all in all, it is a fairly fast little car, and one I'm happy with. So with that, I'll leave you with a shot of the under tray and say goodbye until another day.